Alright, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are building a really wholesome understanding of a concept that is quite literally a game changer for your daily life. We're talking about emotional fitness, and specifically how we can make that incredibly important shift from just instantly reacting to things to actually noticing them.
Have you ever felt like you're just a passenger in your own life? Completely driven around by these wild, unpredictable emotions, like a single passing comment completely ruins your afternoon, or a tiny traffic delay throws your whole day off balance. Well, this quote right here sets up the entire paradigm shift we're exploring today. Emotions are information, not instructions. Think about that for a second. So often, we treat our feelings like absolute, non-negotiable commands that we just have to obey. But what if we started looking at them simply as a map, showing us the terrain, rather than a dictator forcing us down a specific path?
Okay, let's dive into this. Instead of constantly fighting your feelings or desperately trying to squash them down so you don't have to deal with them, I want to challenge you to ask yourself, what is your emotion actually trying to tell you? It's time we stop treating our emotions like they're the enemy or just some random, annoying disruption to our day. They are actually a core, foundational part of how we as humans stay alive, how we connect with others, and how we respond to our environment. We just need to learn how to read those internal signals.
To really grasp this, we need to pin down a clear definition. What is emotional fitness? Basically, it's the ability to notice what you feel, understand what that feeling is doing, and then choose your next move more clearly. And I want you to notice what that definition does not say. It doesn't mean becoming a robot. It doesn't mean you have to be perfectly calm all the time, or pretend you're totally fine when you are actually incredibly overwhelmed. It is simply the capacity to observe your internal state and act with clarity, rather than just acting out of chaos.
Think of your emotions exactly like the traffic light system in a busy city. They aren't there just to annoy you or ruin your morning commute. They serve a really vital purpose. They're signaling you to slow down, to move carefully, to pay attention, or maybe even to change direction entirely. I mean, if you just blow through a red light, you don't magically become freer, right? You just crash, and you'll probably spill your coffee all over yourself in the process. Ignoring your emotional signals just makes you far more likely to react blindly and create some serious collateral damage in your life. And this brilliantly illustrates the actual biological reality of what's happening inside you. You know when your phone drops to 10% battery? What does it do? It automatically dims the screen, it shifts a bunch of background settings, and it behaves differently specifically to protect the system. Well, your body does the exact same thing when a strong emotion hits. It's a whole system response. When fear shows up, your body gets ready to protect you. When anger arrives, it gears up to push back. Emotions literally shift your physical settings to prepare you for action.
But here is where we so often get tripped up. We constantly confuse intensity with truth. Imagine a smoke alarm going off in your kitchen. The alarm is absolutely piercing, your heart is pounding out of your chest, the dog is howling. It is intense. But just because the alarm is blaring, doesn't mean the house is actually burning down to the ground. You probably just left your sourdough in the toaster a little too long. Emotions work the exact same way. A feeling might be incredibly intense, maybe triggered by lack of sleep or an old memory, but that doesn't mean it's a perfectly accurate reflection of reality.
Let's look at a classic everyday example. You send a text to a friend and hours go by with absolutely no reply. The instant feeling? Rejection. Your brain says, they are ignoring me. They just don't care. Your stomach drops, your chest gets tight. But what's the actual fact? They might just be stuck in back-to-back meetings or driving on the highway. Our brains are hardwired to fill in those blank spaces at lightning speed, which means our fast judgments, wrapped up in those heavy bodily sensations, might not match the objective facts of the situation at all.
So, the crucial point here is learning to deconstruct this messy blur of a feeling into organized, tangible pieces. When you're overwhelmed, try looking at it through these three distinct layers. First, the body. What are the actual physical sensations? A tight chest? A hot, flushed face? Second, the story. What is your mind actively telling you? Something like, they don't respect me. And third, the impulse. What do you want to do right now? Argue? Run away and hide? Breaking it down like this separates the feeling just enough so you can actually choose your next move.
This simple act of noticing is literally your superpower. Think about sitting in a quiet room, but there's a really loud background fan running. At first, it's just this vague, deeply annoying disturbance, right? It feels like a confusing cloud of noise messing with your focus. But the exact second you actively turn your attention to it and think, okay, that is the sound of the fan, something clicks. The noise is absolutely still there, but it's no longer a vague cloud. Awareness turns an overwhelming disturbance into localized information you can actually deal with.
One of the simplest and honestly most effective ways to trigger that awareness is just naming the emotion out loud. When you say, "I am angry," you are letting the feeling completely take over your identity. You are the anger. But saying, "I am noticing anger," wow, that creates instant psychological space. The feeling becomes something happening in you, not the whole of you. It's like turning on a bright light in a pitch-black room. The furniture is still exactly where it was, but now you stop violently stumbling your toe into it. Naming it drastically reduces the confusion.
And once you turn on that light, you can start looking at what's really going on underneath the surface. Very often, our surface-level emotions are actually just masking much deeper unmet needs. Maybe it's a fundamental need for safety, respect, rest, or connection. For instance, you might feel unbelievably irritated by a super minor comment at work. But if you look closer, that irritation is probably just a mask for the fact that you are dangerously overstretched, totally exhausted, or feeling deeply overlooked by your boss. The emotion is simply a signal pointing you to the real need.
Now, we really have to talk about what to do with that signal, because a lot of people completely confuse emotional regulation with emotional suppression. Suppression is like slamming a tight, heavy lid onto a pot of violently boiling water. Sure, it might look perfectly controlled from the outside for a minute, but the pressure is building dangerously underneath. Eventually, that trapped steam is going to leak out as complete exhaustion or a sudden, massive overreaction. Regulation is entirely different. It's simply adjusting the heat under the pot. You aren't fighting the water, you're just changing the conditions to make it manageable.
And this brings us right to true emotional regulation, staying in contact with what is happening without becoming ruled by it. It's about creating a crucial tiny pause between the signal your body gives you and your next move. You are absolutely still feeling the emotion. You aren't trying to magically stop the storm from happening. You're just learning how to accurately read the weather so you can grab an umbrella instead of standing out there freezing in the rain.
Let's move along and see how this builds into real practical action. Imagine you're in a meeting and an idea you pitch gets totally dismissed. Instead of getting instantly swept away by that burning heat in your face, you use these 3 steps. Step 1, notice the body. Okay, my chest is tight. Step 2, name the story. My brain is telling me I feel dismissed. Step 3, choose the response. Because you created that tiny pause, you can actually choose to take a deep breath instead of snapping back with something you'll regret. You shift from being a hostage to a regulated observer.
And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway for your daily life. The next time you find yourself in a highly stressful, emotionally charged moment, I want you to do one thing. Pause, take a breath, and ask yourself this single provocative question. What is this feeling trying to tell me, and what is the clearest response? Remember, your emotions are not just random noise, and they are certainly not your enemies. They are vital, powerful pieces of information. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you found it as fascinating and helpful as I did. See you next time.